Hello, I'm Mitchell Ringos, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Northwest Newsweek. We jump to our first story. Is Canada's critical mineral strategy is being called unacceptable by the Matawa Chiefs Council. The group met in Thunder Bay this week and released a statement criticizing the Trudeau government for what they call colonial backroom deals. They're also calling for a dedicated federal table to prepare for the development of critical mineral deposits, including in the Ring of Fire region. Lee Noonan has that story.
Canada's $3.8 billion critical minerals strategy was released last Friday, and every Matawa chief here at the Prince Arthur Hotel expressed shock at seeing that announcement in the media.
We should have been the first to know, and we should have been involved in this whole strategy in the beginning. Not only not just to hear it when it's all said and done.
When policy and legislation comes up and affecting our lands and resources, we have to be involved right from the start, and we said that before, and I don't know why we have to restate it again.
If and when this thing happens, as we know our traditional territory, it will never be the same again. So we need to be very careful and move very cautiously, and this is a one-shot deal.
The Matawa Chiefs Council, on behalf of its 9-member First Nations, also rejects the idea that organizations such as the Assembly of First Nations or Chiefs of Ontario have the authority to negotiate on their behalf, asserting their sovereignty over any development on their lands.
There's a lot of critical minerals, not only in the Ring of Fire, but in the Matawa region. There's an abundance of the critical minerals that I talk about in the strategy.
We didn't concede our land. We were willing to share at the initial stage in the treaty. So they totally do not honor our treaties, and they should be honoring it.
Another area of concern is the lack of resources First Nations have to meaningfully engage in the development process.
Ontario and Canada have all kinds of lawyers to write up those whatever they're going to do, and First Nations, no. We don't have the resources, financial resources to do things right.
Just like in the days of the Indian Act when, we weren't allowed to have lawyers, on our side as experts to understand all of these complex and expert kinds of strategies.
They're now calling on the federal government to establish a dedicated table with the Matawa Chiefs Council to support community-led processes and protocols to prepare for development in the Ring of Fire region and throughout their territories.
Matawa First Nations are taking a stand to say that, if you want to discuss those issues that affect our future of our lands and resources, you have to talk to us directly.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Meanwhile, construction of the Greenstone gold mine has passed the halfway mark. Company officials say they're still on budget and on schedule and planning for the first gold pour in 2024. Jonathan Wilson reports.
Significant progress has been made over the past year regarding the construction of the Greenstone gold mine. Deputy Project Manager Christine Petch explains that the permanent effluent water treatment plant is now up and running, already processing water from the site before discharging it into Kenogamisus Lake. The massive leach tanks have been built, the west end of the mill building is now enclosed, with work ongoing on the east end, and the truck shop and administration buildings are nearly complete.
The next big milestones for the project really involve around getting the buildings closed and starting to move and start working with our mechanical, electrical, and piping inside of the buildings. So previously, over the last year, we've focused mostly on earthworks and civil and getting the foundation and starting to get the steel up for the buildings. So really, this is a huge transition for us now to start working inside and start getting the equipment installed and mounted.
As the construction phase is moving along, so is hiring. In addition to roughly 650 contractors working construction, the mine also has approximately 160 full-time employees. Petch says just over 40% of the mine's current employees are local, and they're looking to hire nearly 300 more people as they ramp up towards production.
So right now the operations, they're at about a third of what they're going to be at full capacity started by 2025. So there's a big hiring spree that's going on right now.
For Greenstone Mayor James McPherson, the progress on the mine is very exciting.
Almost a year into the actual construction phase, and we've worked with the mine throughout the project. It is massive.
McPherson anticipates a sharp increase in local hiring as the project advances towards operation.
In another year, there'll be up to around 400 or 500 employees, of which we hope through the region, through the First Nations, through the different wards of Greenstone, we're able to attract people to come and stay in the region.
Regardless of the weather, construction will continue through the winter, with hires for operations increasing over the next year and expected to reach full capacity in 2024. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
Webequie First Nation and Ring of Fire Metals signed an agreement last week that moves the community one step closer to formally supporting the Eagle's Nest mining project. The company hopes they'll have the first mine up and running in the region, while for the community, this represents a chance at prosperity. Lee Noonan has more.
The Memorandum of Understanding establishes a process by which Webequie and Ring of Fire Metals will develop another agreement which would formalize the First Nations' support of the mining project. Chief Cornelius Wabas says this MOU doesn't mean a final commitment to supporting the project and that they will first need to look at what would be included in the next agreement.
It's all about working together. It's all about developing a partnership agreement, a relationship agreement, which will include our youth, women and elders from our community, and also practically the whole community.
Martin Falls First Nation has also signed an MOU with Ring of Fire Metals. According to CEO Stephen Flewelling, getting those two communities on board is a key step for the company.
The two most important communities to us, which are the communities that are developing the road network as the proponents, and they're the most impacted and closest communities to the Ring of Fire. So they're our priority right now, but we'll definitely talk to other communities as required going forward.
Flewelling says the timeline for moving the mine project forward will depend on getting the Martin Falls and Webequie access roads approved. Both road projects are at the environmental assessment stage. For Wabas, moving forward with the mining development is about improving economic prospects for Webequie.
It would mean, prosperity, working relationship, opportunities, job opportunities, and also, benefit sharing, and hopefully things will start to improve in our community.
They're very motivated to advance development and improve the living standards in the community, and that means both in terms of the mining projects and the road developments.
The next step for Webequie will be to strike up a committee of community members to work with Ring of Fire Metals and determine what they're looking to see from the company. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The inquest into the 2015 death of a Musselwhite mine worker has concluded. The Office of the Chief Coroner released the jury's 3 recommendations on Monday aimed at reducing the risk of the similar tragedies in the future. 49-year-old Jose Amaral of Matawa was fatally injured when a rockfall occurred while he was operating a scoop underground at Musselwhite. His death was ruled accidental. The jury wants the ministry to impose a renewal requirement for miners who have received their mandatory Common Core underground certification. They also recommend 2 changes to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. 1, to prevent an occupied scoop from crossing the, quote, no person threshold in an underground mine while broken rock is being removed in an unsupported tunnel. The other would require a supervisor to visit a production miner once per shift while they remove rock underground. Highway 17 was shut down twice in the past week due to collisions, including a fatal collision last Friday. Few details are available at this time, but the latest crash occurred just before noon Friday between Kenora and Vermilion Bay. These images posted online show several transport trucks damaged and blocking the highway. OPP say there were only minor injuries and the roadway reopened to a single lane of traffic late that afternoon. Meanwhile, Kenora OPP have now confirmed that 2 men died last Friday in a head-on crash west of Kenora. The victims were in a pickup truck that collided with an oncoming transport. They've been identified as 51-year-old Colin Clay and 21-year-old John Martins, both from Steinbach, Manitoba. Anyone with information about the crash is asked to contact the OPP. And after a short break, we'll be going to Fort Frances to look at their plans for a waterfront redesign. Redevelopment of the former mill properties in Fort Frances will be a key priority for its new council, according to Mayor Andrew Halakis, who hopes to make the best of the mill's demolition by attracting business and tourism to the completely redesigned waterfront. Lee Noonan has more.
Although Fort Frances has lost its mill, Mayor Halakis says the town has to look forward. He's looking to take advantage of the opportunities of redevelopment.
As the mill goes down, we're getting $1 million view down our main street, right down Scott Street. Before you couldn't see the river, now you can. And then the rest of the mill is also along the waterfront. So that's some prime real estate for business and industry to move into.
Halakis says the town is cooperating with River's Edge Developments, the company that bought the mill, to see the property redeveloped for the best of the community. He's moving ahead with plans initiated under the last council, including what Halakis calls the Gateway Project.
We have an international bridge here with 500,000 people a year coming across it. And what we would like to do is get some of those people to stay in town. So we're going to change traffic flows and parking and spruce it up so that traffic can flow into our downtown. There's lots of easy parking, and hopefully they'll stay for a meal or do some shopping.
Current ambitions for the 61 acres of riverfront property include shopping and hospitality, light industry, a wellness precinct, and new green space.
Now we have an opportunity to expand our waterfront walkway along the mill property to the bridge, and hopefully in the future on the other side of the bridge to the West End Park, where our water park is going to go.
The municipality is also working on redeveloping the Shelvin Woodyard area with a mix of residential, business, recreation, and green space. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The Transportation Safety Board has released its final report into a railway collision 2 years ago near Hornpain. The CN freight train crashed into a high rail vehicle parked on the tracks at the Jackfish turnout switch on November of 2020. The pickup truck, fitted with rail wheels, was destroyed. Fortunately, the employee was outside the vehicle when it happened, and the train did not derail following the collision. The TSB investigator determined the signal maintainer driving the high rail vehicle failed to understand the safe zone for his track occupancy permit. It was his first time working alone, and the TSB says that inexperience was likely a factor in the crash. Since that incident, CN Rail has developed software that uses the high rail vehicle's GPS location to provide audible alerts within the cab as it approaches the limits of where it can be safely parked. Over $5.6 million has been approved by the Regional Health Sciences Foundation for new medical equipment at the Thunder Bay Regional and many smaller hospitals across the region. It's all been made possible by the Thunder Bay 50-50 draws each month. Vasilios Bellos reports.
28 grants totaling more than $5.6 million will be used to purchase life-saving equipment and support upgrades at hospitals big and small around the Northwest. The funding was announced by the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Foundation, thanks to proceeds from generous donors, and of course another successful year for the 50-50 draw. The largest item being funded at over $2 million is the replacement of a cardiac cath lab at Thunder Bay Regional, including improved technologies for more streamlined procedures. The governance chair for the Hospital Foundation Board, Katie Camiso, says this is crucial considering how important the lab is for day-to-day operations.
Equipment needs to be replaced from time to time, so the biggest grant towards the cardiac cath lab is just for that purpose, to keep the cardiac cath lab growing and going, and it's used 5 days a week in addition to emergency procedures, and the equipment needed to be replaced, and that's what that money is going towards.
The funding will also help the regional hospital build a radialis PET camera, which includes compression-free technology to detect breast cancer, the purchase of new infant care equipment, cardiac monitors, and more. The funding goes beyond Thunder Bay, though, with 5 of the grants also benefiting hospitals in the region.
There was some colonoscopy equipment purchased. That grant is in Terrace Bay. There was also funding towards grants provided in Sioux Lookout and Red Lake, together with Fort Frances. So really the funds are throughout our region, and we're quite excited about that.
Camiso goes on to say how large a part the popular 50-50 draw has played in ensuring hospitals across the region have the vital healthcare equipment they need.
In 2021, the grants we announced were $4.1 million, and this year, of course, it's 5.6. So really that growth is due in huge part to the 50-50 and the success that the foundation's experienced through that.
The 50-50 draw prize for this month has already passed $1 million, and what looks like will be the largest grand prize in its history. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
And after the break, we'll be back with a story about the Dennis Franklin Cromartie students who scored a major Hollywood interview. What began as a simple class project quickly turned into a once-in-a-lifetime experience for a group of students at Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School on Wednesday as Canadian movie star Ryan Reynolds made a guest appearance on Zoom and answered questions from the class rep live on YouTube. Kurt Black has the story.
An interview this morning with famous actor and humanitarian Ryan Reynolds.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
After weeks of preparation, students at DFC saw their hard work pay off and then some on Wednesday, as Hollywood star Ryan Reynolds joined the school's media club for a virtual interview, where the 46-year-old Vancouver native discussed a number of topics with DFC student chief Derek Munias, including his time in Hollywood, his rumored interest in the Ottawa Senators, and even whether he'd be open to making the trip north for the Wake the Giant Music Festival.
Do I have to know how to play a musical instrument or something, or?
No, you don't.
That might be a deal breaker. Yeah, I would love that. I would love an invite. Assuming I'm not, across the pond in the United Kingdom shooting the next Deadpool movie, I would love to be a part of something like that.
Oh, that is so great to hear.
It was Munias' idea to reach out to Reynolds, and with a little help from the local CBC radio station, his dream became a reality. Munias admits there were some nervous moments at the beginning, but overall, it was a thrill of a lifetime.
I'm in no position to give you a grade, but that was A+ if you ask me. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for doing such a great job. I really appreciate it.
At first, I was so nervous, up to the days leading to it, but then after just asking a few questions, getting in the zone, it didn't feel like I was talking to Ryan Reynolds, the super celebrity. It felt like I was talking to Ryan Reynolds, a friend.
For DFC teacher Greg Shomut, this was a perfect example to his class that anything's possible if you put in the work.
A lot of people, think things like this are out of reach, so they don't even ever try. And I think one of the big lessons learned for the students is if they want something, go for it, because, crazy things can happen.
Would love to say goodbye and wish you the best.
Please. Okay, great. Bye, guys.
Kurt Black, TBT News.
A generous donation to the RFDA will make it easier for the group to provide healthy food to First Nations in the region. Ontario Power Generation has gifted the RFDA with 2 refrigerated outdoor containers that can store and maintain healthy food. They'll be used as distribution points across the region, making for easier access to food while preventing spoilage. It's being seen as a pilot project, with the RFDA hoping to purchase more in the future for relocation to remote communities. Brendan Carlin with the RFDA says this will be a huge benefit to their operation and help them better serve the region.
When we send things up, we also have to be efficient with how much we send up, because we don't want to send up too much, but we don't want to send up too little, right? We can send up now as much as needed. It can be stored and can be distributed whenever. But also, healthy food is really important for a lot of those communities.
One of the areas that we've all probably witnessed is some of the challenges that we're having with putting food on the table, and the RFDA is looking after those folks that are struggling with that. And so we really thought it was a great cause for us to help support.
Over the past 2 years, OPG has made donations worth over $450,000 to support the RFDA. There will be a little extra Christmas cheer coming to hundreds of children in the region with a record-breaking year for Dalico's Christmas Wish campaign. The community generously donated enough for more than 800 Christmas Wish bags, smashing last year's total of 700. The bags, which are filled with a variety of toys and basic necessities tailored to the needs and wishes of their recipients, are already being delivered by Dalico and Nishnawbek family care staff and volunteers. Assistant directors Vanessa McLaughlin and Tom Auger say it's important to ensure that every child has a gift to open this holiday season.
We have children that may necessarily not be getting as much for Christmas, obviously with the need that you can see here. So for each child to receive a bag like this really just brings that Christmas spirit to them.
We want to say a huge thank you to the community, especially to our wish bag sponsor, which is Sovereign Dental, who purchased all of our wish bags for us, and the community that has come together and, just really brought the Christmas spirit into this program. And, there's going to be so many kids who really enjoy their gifts on Christmas Day.
Dalico tied this year's campaign to the image of a snowflake comprised of joining hands, symbolizing the community coming together to help children and youth in need. There are reports that Barrick Gold Corp and 2 junior mining companies are embroiled in a $100 million lawsuit stemming from Barrick's decision to temporarily cease operations on land claimed by Grassy Narrow First Nation. According to the Toronto Star, the court filings from Barrick indicate the company was unaware of the importance of land to Grassy Narrows and wants to obtain the consent of the First Nation before proceeding with exploration, and they claim Red Lake Gold and Dixie Gold, 2 firms they partnered with, are trying to terminate the agreement while those firms accuse Barrick of breaching it. Grassy Narrows chief Randy Fobister is quoted saying he blames the province for handing out the mining claims in the first place. The claims under dispute apparently fall within the proposed area of the Grassy Narrows Indigenous Protected and Conserved Area, an Indigenous legal designation that has been federally recognized in other parts of the country. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.